Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, depending on what time you're watching this. It's definitely morning here, and I can see in the video beautiful streams of light coming in through the window, which is quite delightful. It's very cold in Perth at the moment, and this light is helping me to be warm. I'm going to talk in a moment a bit more about regulation and about finding safety in the body and about responding to threat and how it shows up in the body and what to do about it. But before I do, I want to tell you why I have come in to do a video while I'm still sitting in my car. And it's because I'm very, very inspired. I've just been, I'll see if we can get it coming up. Ooh, can you read that? Probably not. It's the Women's Health and Family Services Organization. I've just visited them for a networking event this morning. Alongside my coaching, I am completing my master's in counseling, and I wanted to go have a look at the work that they are doing, providing services to support women's empowerment and health in the community. And they're really, really, really awesome. And I met a particularly awesome woman there who is also a counselor and a yoga teacher. And we got talking a little bit about yoga and embodiment. I wanted to share a little bit more, in a bit more depth, about a piece of the puzzle for me that was absolutely essential to really bring everything together and fully change everything in my healing. And I've seen it the same for some of my clients who have come through perhaps 12-step programs and a lot of psychotherapy, mental-based psychotherapy, which has been awesome, maybe support groups, other support groups. Yet there have been certain things that have happened for them that have left them bamboozled and frustrated, myself included. When I finally came across somatic work, oh my goodness, hopefully you can't hear that. I was going to talk about how when you start making a lot of content and videos, you suddenly start realizing how noisy things are. And I stopped here because there's been a lot of noise in my home, cats mewling and various things, and the dog next door. So I thought I would stop in the car park. And now I think there's like roadworks or something. So we'll just regulate with a bit of softening in the belly and breath, meeting the most imperfect of circumstances. So what happened for me, and what happened for many women I know, friends, family members, I can see it's a whippersnipper, clients, was that perhaps they'd been on a spiritual path. This is what it looked like for me. There was the spiritual yogic path, which brought me to amazing blissful states and realizations and gave me wonderful tools. And then there was the psychotherapeutic path, which allowed me to really understand my issues from an analytical perspective, and then a bit broader as well, the social psychology aspect of why these things were, some of the challenges on an individual level that we might have with mental health, where they sit within culture and our experiences. But one thing that never came together for me until I encountered somatic experiencing, embodiment work, and polyvagal theory. These have been the real clinchers for me. Ooh, a very gurgly belly. Was how to use the tools that I might have in a yoga class, for example, that would help me shift my state, regulate, change my perspective. Now I have language, some more scientific language for that experience now than I did back then. But essentially it's that we come into a yoga class feeling one particular way, and for a number of reasons we walk out usually feeling a different way. And that's what most of us go there for. And usually the way that we feel afterwards is better. As someone with a very strong mind and a very intellectually oriented mind, when I came across somatic experiencing and polyvagal theory, what this did for me, so what would happen is, because my mind was so strong, it sometimes separated out from the experiences of my body. So it was like I was very embodied or I was very intellectual, but having those two together, I didn't really have the tools and the path for that. I see this exact same thing with my very, very bright clients that I work with. And sometimes the power of the mind, the intellectual brain, an analytical mind doesn't serve us so well if it's not integrated. And the way to integration for me was through understanding. So bringing in the cognitive understanding of, when I do a yoga pose, for example, to give you an example, when I do a yoga pose, what is happening in my nervous system and why does it work? So when you understand, and this is what I'm currently studying with the integration applied polyvagal in yoga, when you understand what is happening in the brainstem, in a particular area of the brain, when you do a twist, and you understand the neuroreceptors and the neurotransmitters and what is being put into those neuroreceptors at that moment. So for example, my most fascinating learning recently, sorry about the squeaky leather shoes, was that when we pay attention, it's freaking mind-blowing to me the way the body works. When we pay attention with mindfulness to the sensations of the body literally responds by releasing endorphins. These are pain relievers, feel-good chemicals that the body manufactures for us. So the pure act of paying attention to your states gives you this reward. It's built into your biology. Now, for my personal experience and why I'm so passionate about teaching, while meditation, and my primary tool was Vipassana meditation, which is to some extent an embodied practice where you observe sensation in the body, but there was a piece missing for me. I've talked about this before. Vipassana teaches an observation of the bodily sensations, which is fantastic. For me, somatic work and embodied practices teaches me not to just notice it and overcome it and override it, but to include it. So to be with the sensations of my body. And the reason why this is so important, so I'm thinking about a particular client, years and years of recovery, addicted partner, sexual assault, various things that happened in her life. And she had built a good life for herself, but she was having experiences still, waking up 2 a.m. with overwhelming experiences of anxiety in the body, not necessarily understanding why and what it was connected to. And sometimes just the breathing would help. You know, she had tools to calm things down. But this brings me back around. If you're someone that needs to understand why, and I absolutely am, this experience can be frustrating. And so having the access to the neuroscience of it and having an understanding, you can bring the brain, which is frequently very hostile to negative experiences, understandably hostile to negative experiences in the sense that it's there for our survival and protection. And so a negative experience is going to register as a threat or something that's not good. And the brain isn't going to be on board with being in that. It's going to try to get rid of it naturally and understandably. I had an experience actually. I'm thinking whether it's relevant to tell this story at the moment. I think it is, because it speaks to this idea that, so I'm quite open about my own lived experience, and I had a reasonable amount of time going through 12-step recovery, and it brought absolute wonders and fantastic stuff to my life. But I remember talking to somebody about a situation where I'd wanted to say no to somebody, and the bodily reactions and sensations that arose. And I remember describing it to this person. I said, you know, you just get that feeling like there's this sinking feeling in your solar plexus, and you feel nauseous, and it's like the whole front of your body is on fire and your skin is peeling off. She said no. She said, no, I don't relate to that experience. In understanding trauma in my work now since that time, I know that I'm not alone in that particular kind of reaction. And the thing is, if you haven't had resonance, if you haven't had in childhood the experience of being held through very intense emotions, so that's what you see kids, right? They feel it massively. And the process, some of the theory of somatic experiencing is that the process involves coming to safe harbor, coming to, well, two aspects: being witnessed in that intensity so that it's not destabilizing. There's an anchoring figure presence, and that aspect of safety to come out of it and recover afterwards. And if in childhood we didn't have that, so say our parents were themselves became too distressed in the face of our distress and weren't able to provide that, then we don't have that mapped into our brain. So the recovery process from an embodied perspective is building that safe space inside. It's starting to create neural networks and a capacity to know what it is, to witness one's own experience and be okay through those intense emotions, and to have safety. The trick here is that our biology is programmed that almost any change or anything unfamiliar is going to register as a threat to the system. And so this is why I think for many of us on a recovery path or in a self-development, doing coaching work and moving towards aspirations and goals for which we may be very competent, but that growth, that very growth that we aspire to in and of itself, can in some instances register as a threat to our system. So we must learn, in my opinion, we must learn how to build the internal safe space for ourselves, because we're not children anymore. So it is our responsibility to do it. Our parents are not responsible, and in most cases are not capable either, even now. We need to learn to build it, and we need to learn how to regulate, to keep finding a deeper layer of safety for ourselves through the experience of through the threat that coming into safety represents to the system. Because if we had that, oh, okay, I feel safe, but then the other shoe drops, and these are just random examples that popped into my head. I'm not talking about anyone's history or even my own in particular, but dad's screaming or mum's running down the street, or I've said something and everybody's gone really quiet and just switched on the TV. You know, all these different types of things that threaten that aspect of connectedness and safety that we are seeking as human beings. Then even safety itself is going to be something we have to get used to regulate through and adapt to. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about today. I'm trying to get my videos a little bit shorter, but we're under 15 minutes, so we're good. And I really wanted to share that message with you. So I hope that you're having a beautifully connected, safe, brave, courageous, embodied, rich day and life. And anything that resonated for you, pop a comment down below, or if you prefer, message me directly, and I'd love to talk with you more. Ciao.